We're live. Dave's not here to kick us off, so I'll see if I can channel Dave. He says, welcome to the Twilla Happy Hour, where if Head Trauma had a podcast, humana.
I think he says it with more enthusiasm.
He probably does. He's got some spunk.
Yeah, he's excellent, isn't he?
Yes, he is. But anyway, so January's friendly enough to come back in today, and we're just going to chat with her about her experience running for office, lessons she learned. I'm hoping that she opts to run again.
Really? Do you?
Yeah.
Is it just so you can have more excellent content for your show?
No, honest opinion. I think we need to get diversity of ideas and voices outside of the parties we have now. Both of them are kind of stuck in a rut. Now the Republicans are having a little civil tiff that might bring them out of it, but they're kind of stuck in a rut where it doesn't matter what the idea is. I'm telling you, the party that hears it first decides how they're going to go, and then the other party goes the other way. And I don't care what it is.
I agree with that, actually.
And I want more voices in there, and I want more voices that won't. Okay, Justin Amash was pretty good because he come in from the libertarian side, yes, leaning Republican, but you saw the way he stepped out away from Donald Trump, which was, quite a few Republicans, and I would say the party on a whole did that, but I liked how Justin Amash did it. And I liked it. Every decision, he would put out a statement that said, this is why I chose this way. Here's the constitutional levity I have for it, and things like that. I thought that was real interesting. Bernie Sanders, him and Ron Paul worked a lot together when they were both in there together, but he still seems to kind of ride with that Democrats too much. And I want to see a true third party action. I don't think it can happen on a presidential level. Just sorry, Ross Perot. They put a whole bunch of roadblocks in the way after him. But I would love to see them get into Congress and the Senate and the state houses and things like that.
I think it would be awesome to have even just one party or one independent in for that first go around, right? And then have more and more and more.
Yeah.
I think at least a third should be independent, third party, not part of the main system that we have, because it does get bland and boring, right? Like, the arguments that they're going to have, and here's how we know this, right? Because we start parroting what they're saying to us back and forth between each other. So we already know what they're going to say. So it's like, why are we even putting breath into this if we know that we're just going to walk around in circles and not accomplish anything whatsoever? So I do think that politics on the two-party level has become stale and boring.
Mm-hmm. I could go into dorky history about why we have.
I hope you will. Maybe we can provoke you into that just a little bit. Why don't we start there?
Yeah. Well, it's because Thomas Jefferson had to hold back Hamilton, the Federalists.
Yeah, that's going back quite a ways.
And they did it under the president, who in his outgoing speech said, "Don't become party politics. Don't do it."
Right. George Washington.
Yeah.
Yeah. He wasn't a party man. I think he's my favorite politician, by the way.
Your favorite politician? He is an interesting one.
Who's yours?
Well, William Henry Harrison.
Oh, I should have guessed. The one that was president for like 2 days or something like that.
32 days.
Something like that.
I mean, one of them.
Might as well have been 2 days.
One of them not in a coma.
Yeah.
No, George Washington's an interesting guy. They all are. They're all interesting. I mean, even some parts of Woodrow Wilson, my least favorite president, is interesting. He was a Southern apologist about the Civil War. Real big into that.
So where do you learn your history from? Because you always have fun tidbits, fun facts for the audience. Are you a scholar?
I can barely read.
You can barely read.
No, if I hear something.
But you consume this information like it's nothing else.
If I hear something funny, I research it. So if I hear about something, I like to dig in and research it. I mean, like all day today, I've been playing around on that Chat GPT, having it write me little stories and just seeing where it goes and where
I
it's
haven't
at.
even used that yet. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, it's interesting. It writes. I have a feeling in the next couple months it's going to be impressive. Right now, I think you could write a full book with it if you were to take your time. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe go chapter by chapter or maybe even situation by situation. And then you just kind of fill in little details. But it's interesting. I've asked it philosophical questions. I've asked it to write me stories.
Do you have an example of
Yeah.
one? Oh, you printed them off.
Well, yeah, I've been
Okay.
printing them off so because you can't really save it on there. I'm going to try to find one in here. This one was interesting to me. So you can feel free to read through all of them, but I just asked it, you ask it a question. So I'm asking
What was
it
the question that you asked?
It's that very first
Oh,
line.
write me a story about a civil war between angels and heaven. Why'd you start with this one? Okay.
I didn't start with that one.
Oh, okay.
The first
But
ones I
this is the
start.
first one that you gave me.
Yeah, I just flipped through. The
I
first
see.
one I started with was write me a story about AI rising up, gaining sentience, and taking over the world.
Oh my gosh, this is like,
But it's almost like the thing dug into the historical record of the different
churches.
theocracies, you
Mhm.
know. So it's pretty interesting.
And I think it's written quite well.
It is. It would be a good outline for a chapter, you
Yeah.
know.
No, I think that that's
I asked it
super
to write
interesting.
me an urban legend about a haunted mountain village. You know, I just asked it to write me little stories. But anyways,
Well, so what's really interesting about this, and I think it'd be a fascinating point to touch on just really quick, is that the things that you're putting in here, you can also do the same thing with code. And one of the things I keep telling
the
people
who know
is
what they're doing
jobs-
can do with code.
Yeah. Well, but at some point, you will not need coders or
Mhm.
developers because you'll just be able to plug in, or even, like me in my day job, I essentially do product management,
Mhm.
right? You won't need people like me because you can say, I want this, and then it'll output that, and then you take that code and you plug it in
It'll more than
an
output
environment, and it'll just create whatever you want.
It'll output it and alpha and beta test it, and then
Yeah.
it'll present it to you, and you've had your first sip of coffee.
Definitely. So I mean, there's an entire industry that's gone,
Yeah.
right? So jobs. I mean,
Mhm.
everything that we're experiencing right now, which fine, right? Like I think that the advancement of civilization and our humanity is a good thing, and long term, we need people to understand what's happening so that we can get people into the next phase of economy.
Yeah, we are the horse manure shovelers in New York City in say 1915.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's the question. I mean,
That job won't be there forever, and it's not even that far away.
I think it's going to happen. I think because of how fast computers move and compute and put stuff together, I think it's going to happen and we won't know what happened.
Yeah, definitely.
And it's just going to explode. And, some guy doing coding for some medical saving your information program is going to wake up one morning and go, now what do I do?
Yeah, there's lots of jobs that are being replaced. And so I think that we need to understand that as a society and just really start to prepare for it, because what we're seeing right now just is not moving in that direction. I don't know if our leaders lack foresight, or maybe they're in denial, or maybe they just don't understand. But that concerns me.
I think you could chalk up a little bit to all of that. Not understanding is, that's got to be a big part of most of our leadership. The foresight thing, you would think they have
Like our corporate leaders or our Congress, like our political leaders. When we say they, who are we talking
all
about?
of it.
All of them. Okay.
All of them.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, something like this will make a lot of your college obsolete.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. I think that, you know, the way that we teach school currently is wrong, right? It doesn't actually align to the skill set of the future.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't do something now, I mean, where will people be in 20 years? They won't have a job, they won't have anything. They'll be competing against machines. I mean, we already kind of compete against machines,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, I've worked in industry all my life, and computer operated machinery or computer operated aspects of machinery has been, for lack of a better word, encroaching on the territory forever. So even industry, has in the last 30 years, 20 years has gotten half as labor intensive as it was. And it's going to continue doing that.
well, what's amazing to me is that we have reduced the amount of labor that is needed
Mhm.
to complete a task. Our productivity is higher. Our productivity is higher than ever. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
But we are constantly trying to push humans to their limits, and that we still have this 40-hour work week, which I personally am not a fan of. I think that it's time for a newer model. Like, who in the world dictated that 1/3 of your life should be spent working for somebody else's wealth? You know,
The 40-hour
and I say this as a capitalist. I'm just, but it wasn't created for the worker. It wasn't created for humanity. It was created for one man's profit.
Well, before the 40-hour work week, it was.
I mean, it was bad.
It was a 6-day work week.
It doesn't make it any better.
No, it doesn't. But yeah, there were a couple of things you had. Again, back to the Wobblies, they were a big push for that,
Mhm.
and then that Henry Ford.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan.
But he lowered the expectations down. He said, "I don't want him to work any more than 40 hours. Let's make it like that." He
played the good guy.
Well, he was the good guy compared to what was in there before. But now, I mean,
I think that we should probably be at about, and they're testing this model in Europe, like 32
Mhm.
hours a week.
I
I
agree.
think that's reasonable.
I agree. Here's the big question. Do you think with this automation and that we'll ever reach? Okay. So socialism's a big dream of a lot of people. And I'm a firm believer that we cannot have any kind of functioning, peaceful socialism until we reach a near zero scarcity world.
Okay.
I don't think as long as there's scarcity where people have to gruel and some people have to work harder, can we reach any kind
Well,
of...
what is socialism to you as well? I want to
I go
clarify
off-
that because
I go
there's
off,
so many different definitions.
I
And it's a
go off-
spectrum.
yeah, I'm just going to go off the basic definition of,
The workers control the means of production.
yeah, workers control the means of production, or the means of production is owned by the state or the larger
The people.
organization, the people, whatever. And then, so it's no longer like, say you start up a business where you write security code for people, right? I'm just throwing a shot in the dark. You go through, and our current
No,
state-
you start a business where your AI starts writing security
that's
software
where we-
for people. Okay, keep going.
But yeah, even then, but then you still have to buy the computer that the AI operates.
But the computer
on.
is made by a machine. It's not made by
Sure.
people.
But you still have to buy it. You still have to purchase it, which means your caloric labor went into saving up to purchase this piece of equipment, which means in a capitalist world, the price of your product should drop because the overhead dropped with it. The ability for you to reproduce it with little or no caloric input should drop. I'm not saying that's how
I just
it
don't
works.
see that these days. They say demand is high for everything.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
It is. And demand is high for labor right now too.
Yes, no. Yes, no. So demand is high for labor, but not necessarily for jobs that align to people's skill set, not desirable jobs, right? I think that we're seeing a lot of machinery come in and replacing people, which, I mean, if you have human talent, right? Like I see human capital, human talent as the best machinery that we have. And why waste that creativity flipping a burger? I mean, if you don't have to, if you can have a machine do that,
Oh, I
then why do
agree.
that and have your human talent do something else to advance society, to advance themselves, to have an even better job, or to be more productive or a higher contributor to the world that we live in. I think that that's fine.
Which is where that's when we meet the fulcrum of supply and demand. When everyone's out pursuing their dreams, either they're pursuing a dream that there's no demand for, or they're not fitting into a hole that there's a demand for. And that's why I think the only time
Well,
you
who
can
controls the demand that's created?
everyone else.
I think that a lot of times we do not get a full say in demand that is created for our society.
Like how so?
Well, I've been looking into this a lot recently. So I believe in like you controlling your data, right?
Oh yeah,
I think that that's
100%.
huge. And we've started to see what data is. So what is the most valuable thing in the world right now? It's people's data,
Oh yeah.
their information.
Facebook isn't making money by you clicking on cute little dogs.
Right. Exactly.
It's making money by telling Amazon what you clicked on 5 minutes ago and then pumping more of that to you.
Exactly. So when it comes to data, since that is the most valuable thing that you have these companies that are buying data, right? Like recently we had Congress, talk about banning TikTok, which is stupid because they're like, well, the communist or the China Communist Party, whatever the heck they're called, they'll get your data. And it's like, if they wanted your data, they could just buy it, right?
Yeah.
Because your data is up for sale. They don't need a silly little app.
My issue with TikTok is
Get stuck in it for hours.
well, you can, but I also think that it's boy, here's some blue stuff. TikTok definitely has the ability to subvert society. So in China, have you heard about
so you're leaning into the point that I was about
Yeah.
to make. So keep going. Keep going.
So in China, when they show a TikTok, it's almost exclusively positive, uplifting, society
Yes.
building stuff.
Yes.
And over here, it's someone
Tearing
shaking their
society
booty up or cursing about another, almost exclusively cursing about the other political side of their own civilization.
That's super interesting. My feed, it does not look like that.
But
It looks like inspirational stuff. But I lean into other things. So
okay.
But tying this into the data point, just because I want to tie that off really quick here. So when we look at the data, right, we are not making our decisions at that point. Somebody else is making decisions for us. So this is AI, this is machine learning, and we can't even explain these concepts and how they fully work. Even the people that know it back to front, there's these areas where they're like, oh, I'm not 100% sure. So what that comes down to is that you have people making decisions for us and controlling us and our decisions and what we buy and what our society looks like. And they generate that demand. And so I look at that and I'm like, how much decision making do I actually get? And that's one of the biggest reasons that I have been staying away and off of my phone recently because I want to make my own decisions.
You're just making a little test. Now, do you think your decisions are driven, are being pushed towards financial decisions or?
Like, what am I doing right now?
Yeah, life path or like what?
That is a great question. I think, so after the campaign, right? Because running a federal level campaign for essentially 2 years, building that up, all the work that goes into it, it gets really tiring. So
I'm sure. And that's part of what I want to talk about. Tell us about running the campaign. What lessons did you learn? What was your daily? You woke up in the morning, you said, I'm excited for this and I'm dreading this.
What a fascinating question. So what would I look forward to? The biggest thing is I hope that my message reaches people, right? And it's not even necessarily my message. It's more of like the message of hope, and there is a future for us, and we can do better, and we can be better, and things don't have to be this way. Like, that's really what I wanted to reach people every single morning, and just hope that I would show up authentically, and that I would constantly do the right thing and just make the right decision, right? Which ultimately comes down to personal integrity and never giving that up and never compromising it. The thing that I dreaded each day was actually social media. I hated the social media aspect.
Yeah, we talked before, and you had a decent experience on Twitter, and Facebook was negative.
Yeah, Facebook sucked.
Do you think that's because you were running as a third-party candidate in a single-party area, or do you think that would be a universal Facebook feeling no matter?
It's a universal Facebook feeling. So here's disappointing things. And a lot of this is generalization, right? Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But when we look at Facebook, first of all, Facebook is now essentially a comparable platform to AOL, right? It's like staying on this old stale, sorry, and I know that we're streaming to Facebook, but that's how it is.
Facebook hasn't updated, but it's had a couple of paint jobs and buffers.
Right. And so it has a culture that's been attached to it, and it's attracting the wrong type of people that are negative, that thrive off of putting others down and being angry and resentful towards them. And I also, find disappointingly that it's part of, the older crowd, the people that we're supposed to be looking up to, this previously greatest generation. And instead of being the greatest generation, it's like they thrive off of making other people feel bad. And Facebook is the arena in which they do it.
Are you talking about, because the greatest generation?
Oh, sorry. Is the baby boomers not the greatest generation?
No.
Oh, okay. I was under the impression that the baby boomers were the greatest
baby
generation.
Boomers are children of.
Oh, I see.
The greatest generation.
So what do we call the baby boomers then?
The baby boomers are the children of the greatest generation.
I thought they had another label.
If you go off the fourth turning, they're called, I can't remember. Anyways.
I don't know. I was told that they were the greatest ones because they made this entire civilization just sprout up from nothing.
Sure, yeah. Saved us all. Yay. So now, that's another interesting one. So let's break into age groups. So you've got your baby boomers. Those are the people generally mid-50s and older.
Yeah, I think it's 57 this year.
Somewhere around there. Then you've got Generation X behind them.
Till the age of 41.
So Generation X, I think, starts at...
because millennials are now in their 40s. Maybe that's 42. Okay. Millennials are in their 40s now.
Okay. So you got Gen X, then you got your millennials, and then I think it's Gen Alpha, whatever, on down the line. Where did you experience the most hate from of those groups? And
I
granted,
almost don't want to say this out loud.
I understand you didn't do like a bar graph and.
No, I did a bar graph.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah. I have so much data.
Lay it out, because this is good stuff to know. And if we've got, any of those groups. See, I'm a Gen Xer.
See, I think that I almost don't want to share it because it just hurts.
Well, it's not about hurting. It's about,
but
I mean, it's good.
It's disappointing. It's disappointing.
Sure. Was it the boomers, the older, the grandparents?
I think the boomers were skeptical initially. Rightfully so. I mean, I look super young. I get it. Somebody said I look like a college kid. And it's like, I mean,
hey, looks like a fresh out of college kid.
I kind of look a little silly today with the hat. I'm in incognito mode.
Yeah,
nobody is recognizing me today.
There is no purple on you.
Not a single bit.
Wow.
Wait. No.
I got a purple sock on or something.
I think I have. Oh, I do have purple on my shoe.
Okay, purple on the shoe, pink
Yeah.
socks, good to go.
Yeah, but no, my suits are in repair. So,
Yeah. Well, man, you ended up. How many suits did you end up with?
right now I have like 7.
7.
And
Okay.
I'm gonna have 10 here
I
shortly.
bet you wore them out though, because you went and walked in the parades. You had your
Everything.
awesome little robot that the kids had chase around
Yeah.
those kids wore that robot down.
Oh, it's very worn down. I've been thinking about getting a new one, February 2.0.
Yeah.
The robot's name is February. Remember that little naming convention that we had?
Yeah, I remember. I'm thinking like Feb.2.
Feb.2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but 2.0 is, I think, is more, it's got to be kind of computer.
Mm.
Feb 2D2.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
But
That
anyways,
is funny. So
but no, but I thought that was awesome. I like that you brought that along, just because you are a forward thinking, you were a forward thinking candidate, which is interesting. And you and I may not agree on a lot, but I think on a couple of things we really align closely.
I think it's healthy not to agree on everything. So let me go over the ages,
Yes, let's
since
back to
we're
that.
here before we both forget. So initially the boomers were a little bit resistant, but they did end up leaning in because there's a lot of people out there that are kind of like you that say we want something different. This has run its course. It's time for us to get out of politics and to move on to the next thing. Millennials were supportive, but they did not have the appetite for politics. They're exhausted. They're tired. They're trying to figure out their stuff still. They're going through, what is this, like their 3rd major crisis in their adult life or something
It's
like
crazy.
that.
The millennials they got born with a crisis, and about every 5 years they pop a new one.
One more crisis.
And
Yeah.
they're just like, I mean, honestly,
We eat crises for breakfast.
Yeah,
It's like,
gotta
all right, here
feel
we go.
like it's a constant thing.
oh, it does feel constant and it's exhausting. And then you have Gen Z that has started to kind of follow the path of millennials a little bit. They try and lean in, but I think that they recognize the manipulation faster. And so because they're not seeing candidates, like if they don't have somebody to latch onto, they just don't support anything. Right. And they're also voting very, very low. But in the Gen Xers, this is, I think, where my split happened the most between the women. The women tended to support me. The men did not. Not here in
Or
Utah.
some shady bastards.
I just think that it really hurt because, I've never in my life considered myself to be against men. Right. Like, I think that at the end of the day, we're all here. We're all trying to accomplish the same thing. I work in a male dominated industry, and to have some of that come out, there was a lot of shocking things that people say in terms of politics towards another human being. And it was unnecessary.
Were the my fellow male Gen Xers, were they sexist towards you, or were they bringing up, like did they bring up a particular, hey, you said this and I want to dig in more, or I disagree with you? Or was it, why are your shoes on and why are you out of the kitchen talk?
Sometimes they would lean in and that kind of thing, but a lot of times it was just generalizations. I think people would look at me and say, oh, you're female, you're in your 30s and you have dark hair, so you're an AOC. Right. And I'm definitely not an AOC.
Oh,
yeah. Like,
it took me a minute.
Like, I would go head to head with AOC on many things.
What does AOC mean? Oh, would you now?
Yeah.
Like,
well, first of all, she doesn't like moderates.
Also,
she thinks that we're
also, she's a blithering idiot.
I don't think she's a blithering idiot, but I certainly don't agree with many of the things. So let's rephrase. She is a product of her area,
sure.
Right? She's a product of the Bronx, of her people, of
sure.
everything like that.
Sure. Like what Nancy
Which
Pelosi
is what
said.
representation should be.
Nancy Pelosi said we could run a glass of water in her district as long as it had a blue D on it, it would get elected. Nancy Pelosi said.
But didn't she unseat? Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. Now, AOC is also needed.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't have too many
But
concentrated
what I don't
voices.
like about AOC is AOC has not represented her district one day while she's been in there.
I don't follow her closely enough, honestly,
Well,
to know.
there's lots of politicians that become party talking points. And that's what AOC is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's very interesting. So in terms of sexism, we definitely get sexism. One of the first, before I really, became super public, I was told, hey, people are going, how do I put this? Women are going to wonder who their husband is following, because I was wearing a tank top on one of my pictures on my social media.
Women are gonna
Wonder who their husbands are following. Like,
Was
you're
it
not
like
you're not
a
dressing appropriately enough.
super deep cut tank top or a
No,
normal tank
just
top?
like a normal, like sporty tank top. Like your shoulders were showing. I
So-
had tons of comments like that.
Yeah.
I also, I mean, I had some incredibly inappropriate comments. I certainly won't repeat them.
Yeah, this is not the right show for that.
Yeah, it isn't.
That show is on OnlyFans.
Which I had to put in, effort. Like you can't give any leeway when people say that. You have to be very strict and direct.
One issue I have is that almost exclusively happens to women.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Absolutely.
let's say I ran for office, never going to, but let's say I did.
And when we say it, we're talking about sexual harassment.
Oh,
They would do
I
things to
could
women
come
that they
out-
would never do things to men.
I could come out in a tiger stripe Speedo, just showing the gams to God and the world.
Wow, are you going to run?
And
Are you going to run and do that?
oh God,
We should place bets on
I
this.
might fake run and do that just
Do
to
it.
do that.
You
But
should run for president and have that be your opener.
president, Jesus.
They would pay you so
Shooting
much
for
money.
I might run for dog catcher one day.
Okay.
I like dogs though. But no, they wouldn't say anything sexist to me about it. They might say, "Oh, that's inappropriate," but not, not like you're drawing the ire.
Yeah.
Was that a man who said that to you about the tank top?
That one was a man. I had other, I had comments
So
from women
he's-
as well, but a lot of the men would say some pretty audacious things.
He's signaling you, or signaling
It was with good
his
intent,
wife
I think.
that his wife needs to see what he's following.
Yeah. So I think that there was a lot of that. There was some kitchen comments as well, like your role is in the kitchen.
Why do women wear white on the wedding day?
Yeah.
Why are women's feet smaller than men? Yeah, I get it.
So disappointing. But there was a lot of comments about my dress and how I looked, and I like my figure, I think is probably the best way to put it. And
Your figure.
yeah,
What about it? That you have a lady figure on a lady?
I have a lady figure, right?
Yeah,
An accentuated lady figure.
looks like a lady figure.
Right. But so that was actually part of the reason in my suit why I picked a high collar, because I'm like, okay, there's a couple of things
don't
here.
want to cut low.
Well, I wanted it to stand out, and I wanted to try and signal we mean business here. I'm not here for you to treat me like a sex object, because I'm actually trying to get stuff done.
I'm just going to throw this out there. You should have gone with the black turtleneck, like that lady
The black turtleneck.
that went to jail and Steve Jobs. That's how.
But
you
there's
do
nothing
business.
remarkable about a black
Nothing
turtleneck.
at all remarkable.
And it doesn't
I'm
have the
just
words
teasing.
though,
I'm just teasing.
or
No,
the meaning behind it.
I think the purple suit was perfect.
I think it was
and
stunning.
If I would have saw you today, I wouldn't have recognized you out on the street.
Right.
Because I've seen you, 4 or 5 times?
Every time in
Always
the
in a
purple
purple
suit.
suit.
Yeah.
And there were good purple suits, not like Joker purple suits.
Yeah, they're solid purple.
They were well fitting. They were well, like the buttons were accentuated, everything. They were good purple suits.
And that's from a local company here in Salt Lake.
Oh, really? Shout them out.
Yeah. So that's the Taylor Cooperative that created my suits.
Okay.
And they do a lot of the suits for many of the politicians here. So like Lieutenant Governor's suit, I know that they make that for, or made hers. And They just have excellent service, excellent timelines. They actually even have a little fridge for beer. If you want to go in, get yourself a
Yeah.
suit, they'll give you a drink,
Sit
free
back.
drinks.
I've only had one suit like custom made in my life, and that's when I was in Korea. And
They made it custom while you were there.
yeah, well, not while I was there. They measure you. They bring out a lot of samples. It takes about a half hour to get all that stuff done. But you walk in and there's Karl Malone on the wall, and apparently,
Wow.
either
In Korea?
either they're lying, and they just hang football play or usually basketball players pictures on the wall,
Mm-hmm.
or people go there to get suits made. But I will tell you, I had a 3-piece custom suit made, and it was like $103.
Wow.
And it was a well-made suit.
Maybe I need to go to
No.
Korea.
It's probably not that way anymore.
I mean, if
Korea's-
it's, I don't know, I'm kind of a sucker sometimes. I could use more suits. I could have like a suit for every day of the year, and that would be
Yeah.
nice.
Korea was made for shopping when I was there.
Hmm.
The best artistry I ever saw.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
But now I'm sure it's still the best artistry, but I'll bet the price matches.
Probably.
Korea has come leaps and
Korea
bounds.
is doing amazing.
They are. I'm kind of leaning in that. I feel like, okay, personal opinion.
Okay,
little
let's hear it. Personal
conspiracy
opinion.
theory,
Bring it
maybe
on.
some doomsday calling. I think our current economy is due for a collapse. We've built too many bubbles, and we're running on life support.
I think we love the idea that our society is going to collapse. I don't think our society is going to collapse. Humans have currently 100% success rate, you know? So
Sure, and they probably had 100% success rate before the Dutch collapsed, before the Rome collapsed, before Greece collapsed, before the Bronze Age collapsed.
maybe
before
we'll collapse in like 1,000 years.
China's
is
gone through since China's existence, something like 7 collapses. One nation.
What do you define as a collapse? Like where you change and you become better and something different and something. I think that collapse just
Depends on
means
the
we
collapse.
are advancing. So like think in your personal life, right? This is personal philosophy right here. And then I'll let you talk about your collapse and doomsday and
Okay.
everything. So when you encounter an issue, you will have the option to go down, to stay where you're at. So you have to like put in some effort to get back to where you were, or you have to work twice as hard to actually grow from that.
Mhm.
So I think you encounter these things that take you down, and then from there we grow because we put in the effort and we overcame those obstacles. So I don't see when we talk about, you know, economies and everything's getting harder, and it's like, yeah, that means that as a society we're going to put rubber to the road and we're going to grow and be better and do something amazing.
Actually, I think the AI is going to be a part of it.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a part of it.
of the collapse.
AI machine. I think it'll play a part, but I think that lack of foresight
You
is
know what-
what'll play an even bigger part.
You know what all the collapses have in common? Well,
Okay, let's hear it. So yeah, tell me about your
okay.
doomsday.
Now there's signs in society of societal collapse, and it's not just economic. Some of these signs are very offensive for me to say to some people, but when the genders blur, that's usually a sign of an oncoming collapse. It's happened in every one of them.
Uh-huh.
I'm just stating a fact.
I mean,
Historians have studied this forever, and they've wrote it out.
and we both agree, like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what
Sure.
like you be who
Sure.
you want to be.
And
Okay.
I'm-
Because that's that anacro coming out in you.
It's not whether I want to stop it, but it is a sign of a collapse. Happened in Rome, happened in Greece, and it happened in Holland.
Is it a sign of a collapse, or is it just part of the collapse?
It shows up. It's not
Because it was there
it doesn't
before.
cause the collapse. It's a sign a collapse is coming.
Hmm.
It's a signal.
I don't know about that, but it's
I'm
fine.
just
Keep
telling you
going.
what
We'll keep
historians
going,
say.
though. Okay. You know,
Art-
those historians are frequently biased, though, right? And they, you know, draw
Okay,
lines between
sure,
cause. Okay.
sure.
Okay. Just checking. Just checking.
Art degrades.
Hmm?
Art degrades.
Okay.
Just throwing that out there.
I don't know. That beer can that you have looks quite nice.
It does. And Hollywood is producing dog shit successfully for 10 years now.
Yeah, that's true. Okay,
Our
so
music is just recycled what was made 20 years ago.
you mean we're getting bland and boring?
There's no new ideas, no new thoughts. But anyway,
Well, it's because we stifle it.
sure.
We
I'm
try
not
and push people out. Okay, continue on though.
all right. Now, usually the thing that there's other things, but usually the thing that initiates a collapse is a natural disaster, right? Now, the Bronze Age
Wait,
collapse.
is a natural disaster something like an overheating earth or bad air quality or water that's dirty? Like, is that going to be ours?
Could be.
Okay, so one of those, we'll just say one of those
Sure.
three will be our natural disaster.
Sure. Now, the one we don't have the most familiar with is obviously the Bronze Age collapse.
Maybe like freezing over, having crazy big storms in winter.
Could be. The Bronze Age is one that I find most interesting because a new technology came out right before that.
You want to give the years for the Bronze Age?
Oh, the Bronze Age collapse was in what? Was it 500 BC, I think.
Okay.
But iron had just started to come to the front. And a whole global economy had been built on, well, acquiring tin to make bronze.
Do you think AI is our iron?
Maybe.
Okay, keep going.
That's it.
I didn't mean to steal your thunder.
An interesting thought of mine. So, and a collapse, I don't mean, nuclear bombs and that, but have you ever heard the story of the 10,000?
I have, but I think that we should share it.
All right. Well, 10,000 Greeks were hired by a Babylonian king. And if anyone can correct me on any of my years, please do. Was hired by a Babylonian king to fight, I think, his brother or cousin.
A family member.
And they go to the battlefield and they're in the middle of the engagement and, war's over. They win. They turn around and the king that had hired them as mercenaries died on the battlefield. So the whole Babylonian, all of those armies from the Middle East all unite. And all of a sudden, somebody has to be the bad guy. Well, everyone else there's Persian, except those Greeks.
Yeah.
So the Greeks make a run, trying to run back home. And they're running through all of Persia. And they come across an ancient Babylonian city. I can't remember the name. It was a part of the Sumerian cities. And they run up
This is a lot of detail. I did not hear the story in this much detail. Keep going.
It's Xenophon.
Okay.
Xenophon wrote the story about it. And this is part of it. He runs up on the city and the walls are huge, like nothing he's ever seen. Holy cow, what is this great big thing? So it has people that lives around it. And they're like, oh, well, God's built it. We don't know who lived there. We don't know any. The only thing had only been deserted for 200 years.
Only 200 years.
Yeah. The Gauls looked up at the aqueducts from Rome and asked what giants built those. Their great grandfathers built them. But they looked up and said,
they thought it had to be by giants.
That's what a collapse is to me. A reset. Now,
when people forget,
AI might change that. It depends on how bad the natural disaster is. But
I think that is food for thought. Something that I'll certainly take away from this conversation.
I think this is the reason I tie it most into the Bronze Age collapse, because that was a global economy to build bronze, getting tin from Afghanistan and from England. They were getting tin from these places to pull it back to make bronze, the lifeblood of the world. That's why, what's that city off of Indiana Jones, the little city built into the rock?
I know this one.
But anyways.
Yeah.
That's to support
I can't even remember this.
That's to support the Bronze Age.
It's on my list of
places to go.
Yeah.
People, I guess, live there right now.
Wow.
It's like a homeless shelter in the desert. But anyways, so, and I don't think collapses are bad. What comes after a collapse is usually beautiful. The Dutch collapse may have had a part. Its industrial innovation that came about that brought it was capitalism. Maybe. Kind of happened around the same time.
I know that you say that you're a terrible reader, but I do want your reading list. You just send me over like 1-2 books, maybe 3. I can breeze through them in a few weeks.
Well, there's one with Tom and Spot and Jane. No,
Okay.
I like to dig through
I
history,
won't push you on it.
but no, I'll pull out any books I read.
Can I tell you something about the campaign trail
Yes.
on reading books?
Mm-hmm.
One of the most annoying questions that I got asked was, what is your opinion on critical race theory?
Mm-hmm.
And when I got asked that question, I said, let me get back to you, because I actually wanted to make an informed feedback decision instead of just what I had heard, everything else, right? If this is going on the record, I want to give my opinion. This book is like 200 pages of legal text with links and court cases and everything. And so it wasn't like an overnight read
Which
for
book?
me. Critical race theory.
Okay.
So I read the legal text for critical race theory.
Okay. I think more what they're talking about. This is where they get it wrong. I think what they're doing is when they say CRT as in the form of the legal classes that were taught, I think they're mistaking, but it's the critical race. I've heard people call it praxis.
Well,
The application of it in schools, I think, is where the argument comes from.
right. Okay. So leaning into this a little bit more. First of all, I was annoyed that it was so long, right? Like it actually took effort because I read through the court cases and made sure that I understand the references and everything like that. And then, ultimately it's like, are there things, and I think even if you read it, I think that you would find that there are things in there that you don't agree with, and there are things in there that you do agree with. And so that's all it is. But they're like you said, they would say the same thing. Like, no, what do you think about it in our schools? And I could not find any school that actually taught critical race theory. I could not find any school. And so, and when I say that, I mean, I'm talking, were they teaching it in grade school? No. Were they teaching it in middle school? No. High school? No. College? No. When were they teaching it? They were only teaching it at the legal level, right? So this is people that are pursuing their law degrees, and only if you opted into this class. And that's what bothers me at the end of all of this.
Yes and no.
I've asked people to
There's
provide
been
me information.
I have seen instances
What is an instance though? What does that look like?
application. Okay. Some of the stuff I've seen, if they're in a math class, they have the written out questions, Billy is Billy has 3 cars at his home and, whatever. And it's leaning that way. It's so that's, and I'm not disagreeing.
It's okay if you disagree. I don't
Well,
mind.
no,
I just want to see the actual documentation, the booklets, the things in the schools.
oh, well,
Like that's what I want.
there's one. What was it? I didn't choose this, or probably got cap locks on like a savage.
Wow. I didn't choose this. You're feeling very passionate today.
I didn't choose it. Is this right? There's a book written for kids that.
But was it
That-
actual school curriculum?
Well, they
Because
have
they're
it
saying it's school curriculum.
they have it in the school libraries. I actually bought the book. Dave's got it at his house.
Interesting. I mean, I don't
But
know.
it shows that white people shake the hand with the devil. And this is a book that was written in the last couple of years.
But like I said, there's a lot of things that I don't agree with out there. I don't think that that's an appropriate thing to teach anybody. I don't think that we should be.
Now, here's one of the big things is when you see the videos of teachers in class saying things like that. Would that still be allowable even though it's not written into a textbook?
I don't think people are perfect at the end of the day.
Sure.
And keep in mind, like, I do not support the war on teachers right now.
Okay.
I think that it is harmful and toxic and hateful, and our school system like shouldn't be pushing out the best and the brightest teachers because we have this thing where we're starting to politicize education and everything like that. Now, do I think that there are appropriate topics for kids? Yes. Do I think that these kids are going to talk about these things anyways? Yes. Do I think that if we stifle conversations and aren't, and that's probably not the best way to put this, I think that pretending something doesn't exist is more harmful than acknowledging that it does exist.
That's your question. You're not a parent, right?
I do not have children.
And I'm not judging you on that.
No, it's fine. You can judge me.
But no, I'm not. I wouldn't. But I would like to I've asked this perspective of Democrat parent friends of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll ask it this very particular way. They're angry because some books with sex are being pulled out of school libraries, which I agree. I don't think schools should ever be something that drives a rift between the parent and the child, because in the end, the parent is the defense and the sustenance.
You don't think that kids should have a right to know what is going on with their bodies?
I don't think a school should ever host anything that would drive a rift between a parent and a child.
I don't know what that means.
If the parent doesn't want them to know that, we must respect the parent, because in the end, the parent is the defense and sustenance of that child.
So don't let that kid check out the book. It's as simple as that.
Don't have it in the school. How do you control it?
But why does it matter if it's in the school, right? So keep in mind, so this is a perfect opportunity.
Because
Let's lean into blockchain technology.
The school is an involuntary action you must make.
So let's lean into technology.
Schools
really
are compulsory.
here.
I want those books to be in the public library, not the school library, because the school...
It's still a library at the end of the day.
But the public library is not involuntary.
So here's how we mitigate this conversation.
Okay.
Here's how we change it. And this is what people aren't talking about, right? Because you have, should these books be in schools, whatever. I think that accessible information should be appropriate. Now, with the future and what's coming out, and these are projects that I work on, you will have an ID where you control all of your information. Actually, State of Utah has this right now. Have you downloaded these? The Get ID? Have you downloaded this yet?
Probably not.
No, it's so cool. It's so cool. So you can
downloaded Home Depot the other day.
Wow, that's a big
Finally.
deal. Okay, so you can have your driver's license, and anybody can do this. So you can download your driver's license, and you can use this at a location to buy a drink or to show to the police or whatever it is. You can get on an airplane with these IDs.
Okay, so they're moving the ID onto your device.
Right. And so, but they use cryptography, and the way that this one is designed, I actually really like the legislation. I really like the way they did the application, because you own the information. Now,
Does a 6-year-old have one of these?
They will, right? Because you essentially have this information, and the parents will control this ID until they turn the age of 18, right? And then at that point, they'll have it turned over.
So then the child then has to have a cell phone earlier.
So it could be a cell phone. It could be just like an actual little physical card that doesn't have their information on it. There's a lot of different options here. Now, so it doesn't mean that they have to carry around like a mobile like this. But what you can do is, a parent, you can say, okay, hey, my child wants to check out a book, and you can decide whether or not you want that book to be read by your child.
I want to pose some...
And this also applies to porn. So if you want to touch that topic as well.
That's great. And that's another thing that's been popping into some elementary school libraries, is books that a lot of them get judged unfairly, but do cross the line with visual images. Now, here's my thoughts on this. In the end, the state will have to make a decision. If they're going to drive a rift between the parent and the child, the state will have to end up making a decision that rift they drive may make it so that the child's life at home is untenable. Right?
I mean, keep in mind, I come from a very conservative religious family.
Sure.
And having a wide variety of educational systems, right?
What happens if, because of the actions of that school on a matter that a parent can't can't deal with. Now, I'm a very open guy. That's why I want the public library to have that. But the schools have a modicum of force.
I don't see a difference between these two libraries. They're both libraries.
But
at the end
one
of the day.
is compulsory, and the other one is voluntary.
But they're still both libraries where you can
Sure.
check out the information. And so, so saying that
One you're forced to have your kid go to, and the other one you would have, it would be a modicum of choice on whether your kid goes in there.
I don't think that matters. I don't think that
I think
matters.
that matters a lot.
I think that people have a right to information.
Okay, let me ask you
And
this.
In addition to that,
Let me ask you this.
when we hold on a second. So you're essentially advocating for the lowest common
Sure.
denominator
Sometimes you have to.
of information to disseminate out there. And I think that that's
Sometimes.
actually the ruination of our education system, because we went for the lowest common denominator of no child left behind. So essentially the method of thinking that's being proposed here is actually
there's a
what is
lot of-
causing the destruction of schools and everything like that.
Well,
Instead,
there's a lot of reasons our schools got ruined. Some of them we don't have to go into, but
but you can have the information in the schools and you can prevent the child from having access to it as a parent with the solutions that I'm proposing.
you know what?
And then the
Okay.
conversation is gone.
Here's
You don't have
another-
to complain
but
about
let
it.
me ask you this.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm not defending the parents to be in a prude. What I'm defending is the child to have safety in the place they are for most of their life.
I think that those children will have safety if they are in proximity of one of these items and not able to access it. Like that's the way of technology
How do they
now.
stop them? Is it they're going to have to scan their card to pull it off the shelf?
Yeah,
sit
so
down on the floor and
you
read
can do
it?
it that way. You can have it be in a section where people cannot access that information unless they have that card and they tap in. Like there are options. Like, I mean, humans are creative. We can
Sure.
outsmart some children here. Like if we don't want them to have access to it, we can prevent them from
I
having
don't know.
access.
As an adolescent boy, I don't think parents can outsmart children. I'm just saying
As an adolescent boy, I don't think that's hilarious.
no, it's very true.
It tells me a lot about you.
Yes.
You were very mischievous as a
I
child.
was a dipshit. But no, all I'm saying, my portion of it is not keeping the kid away from it as much as in the compulsory action of the government forcing you to enroll your child into state school.
But your issue is with the government, not with the content
You're-
that's inside of the school.
My issue is with if you're going to be compulsory and make that parent send their kid to the school, do not have any.
But they're not making the child consume the information on a
True,
compulsory
true.
level.
True. But once you've crossed that compulsory, do we want to have a porn section in our prisons?
I don't think it matters.
I think it matters quite a bit
Why?
because our prisons are there. You don't want to have a mixed message into the prison. Hey, guy who got sent in here for rape, Debbie Does Dallas is on the wall.
So you would essentially make
Yes.
somebody live a completely celibate life, and this is a hairy topic, right?
If
You would
someone's a
essentially make
rapist-
somebody.
If someone's a rapist, honestly, I want a little mini guillotine, and I don't think I need to finish that sentence.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of things that I would prefer in society. So if we're talking about
But-
prisons, I would rather we create a healthy
Let me
sex culture for them so that they don't proceed to do
Sure,
those things into
sure.
the future.
sure.
But I don't think that telling people to repress their sexuality or live a sexual or a non-sexual life is healthy, and it's cruel. Like imagine
until
people
we figure out how to therapize a rapist into not being a rapist.
they actually have done that, but
Okay.
they found it to be so unethical that they fired that therapist, even though he
What was
did heal the
unethical
people.
about
So I've actually been trying to get my hands on this study.
every time he stood in there with the rubber mallet, and every
I
time
don't
that
know
guy
if it got
started
that
getting
wild.
whap,
I don't know if
Come
it got
down.
that wild.
the guy's got a big old flat.
But no, so
But
what he did
here's
is
the
he
thing.
rehumanized people.
Sure.
He humanized women for these rapists.
I got into a study when I went through a drug interdiction school once upon a time.
Interdiction?
Yes,
What is an interdiction?
stopping drugs.
Okay.
And I got into a study because the doctor there, told us about a study that he was a part of in Louisiana. And they did the whole drilling into the head, dropping electrodes into a guy. And I'll tell you about it later. But that was an interesting one. And yeah, it was complete. But I'm just saying that with the compulsory part of school, if something learned in that school breaks the safety of that child in the home.
But I mean, you can say the
What
same
do you
thing
do
about
with that?
religion. You
Sure,
can say
sure.
the same thing about being exposed to other people,
Sure.
your classmates. I don't like your classmates. At that point, it's not compulsory. Like you can say, you have the option of saying, I just don't want you in schools. And I think that that's fine. And maybe that's a healthier relationship for the teachers, for the parents that don't like the teachers. If you just eliminate the conversation and then they take care of their kids on their own, I think that that's fine.
Sure.
Like we don't have to argue about it.
That is fine. It's not attainable for what, 85% of the homes?
For frequently. But I mean, I think that we could really go around in circles around this all day. I think that there are solutions that we're not implementing that could solve this problem.
But the state has already levied the tax and levied the laws to make school compulsory.
I mean, education is a good thing for our society.
Sure. They have already levied the tax, made the laws to make school compulsory.
So wait, do you have an issue with these books?
No.
Okay.
I have an issue with
compulsory school.
My issue, no, you're missing the issue.
Okay.
My issue is that say the parent's a shit brick. Okay.
So you're saying that
say the parents,
the kids,
say the parent, we'll go this route.
Okay.
Say the parent's a huge lefty.
Mm-hmm.
Karl Marx and Stalin adorn his walls like other people would have Jesus up.
Who does that?
Let's just say.
Okay.
We're in pretend land right now.
Okay.
Pretend there's a diddly, you know, as I started this.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. All right. I'm with you. I'm following.
Okay. Let's say the one thing that parent doesn't want is that little questioning kid that every time he gets a marker starts whittling a little black mustache on. Doesn't want him to read Mein Kampf.
Well, with that solution that I talked about, you can prevent that. But yeah.
Okay.
But also, should another human being control another human being? So this gets into a concept of control.
Parent, yes.
You think you should control a small human?
Okay. Let's say your kid is 7, steals a car, runs people over. Who ends up with the fines for that? Who ends up with the financial cost and burden of that? Let's say your child doesn't eat for a month and dies. Who ends up with the burden for that? So yes, until we figure out how to make kids able to atone for their own
I mean, there's appropriate boundaries, right? That I think that we should have be respectful. And
reality is still going to slap us right in the face every time.
I don't know. I think
very few 7-year-olds are going to survive without mommy and daddy packing food in them.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that level, but I think that we're talking about the control of thoughts and control of information.
Sure.
And we see what happens with that in like our culture, and it's wrong.
Sure. Now,
so why are you advocating for it?
I'm advocating for, let's just have school be the 3 R's: reading, writing, arithmetic. And those are the things we hold standard.
I think that those are topics of the past at this point. We need to continue to advance beyond them.
And other than that, let's let the local community decide and not call the Department of Justice down when they question a book, which has happened, which has been called to account and gotten some parents thrown on terrorist watch lists when they held up a book. Matter of fact, there's one lady reading a book, falsely, I think the book has been falsely judged. I've read excerpts of it. Falsely judged. I think it's called Gender Queer. And it's a book that's in her, what'd she say, 6th grader's classroom. And when she went to read the book in the meeting, they shut her down because it was too graphic. So if it's not allowed amongst adults. I don't
follow a lot of these things. And I think that there's case by case instances.
But here's what I just want to go back to. I want to have, while the state has made that compulsory. Now let's say that kid goes in there and maybe doesn't read Mein Kampf. But let's say he reads, what's that book that Mussolini wrote? or hell, let's just say he reads any book older than, 1950. And that makes him go home with some ideas that causes discernment in his home. Maybe mommy and daddy.
I think that's where you have conversation. Okay, but that's inappropriate as well. I do not think that parents should be walloping on their children for talking or having ideas, or like that's abusive.
You're missing my whole point, though.
Your point is what happens when it causes
You're missing
friction
my whole point.
Between.
You're missing 1,000% of my point.
I don't know. Are you sure you didn't have too much of that drink over there? Because maybe I'm just not following your point.
No, my point is that the school is compulsory.
So your issue is with compulsory. So we've already addressed this concern. We can prevent them from reading the books, and it's not a problem.
We're not preventing them, and until that's in place.
So we can prevent them, which brings us back to the thing of, are we even electing the right people that understand? Yeah, we absolutely can. Okay. And it takes, we're on the cusp of it. We could have this system implemented within the next year.
Once we're doing it, it's fine.
So with that, it requires us to hold our leaders accountable and stop electing stupid people. People that don't understand technology, that don't understand solutions, people that just parrot points back and forth at each other. Like our politicians at this point, our leaders, whatever, they're useless. They don't know what the heck they're doing in there except manipulating you and supporting a system that doesn't help anybody. So for example, I gave you the solution to this whole book conversation, and yet people still choose to have the conversation.
So on that ID, you can go in there and get your 6-year-old an ID right now.
So at the moment you cannot, right? But so within a year,
and then hold on. What else do we have to do?
Well, so, okay, let me rephrase. You can. The problem is right now, and I've asked the state to do this because I'm like, hey, can you please make this legislation permanent? And so people can put their information on a DID. So this is, DIDs are decentralized IDs where you are the person that controls all your information. So this is how we fight back against Facebook and everything like that, right?
Love it.
So with this, you can do your birth certificate, social security number. You can lock all that information down. You can, lock your age, whatever, and then you can issue an identity. So a parent could issue an identity to their kid, right, for the school, or maybe it's attached to their school card, whatever it happens to be. And then you can go through there and you can say, I do want them to have access to whatever they want, or I don't want them to have access. But the system, it doesn't take a lot. Sorry, I get so passionate about it. It takes no effort to do that.
Okay, sure. So you've got half the solution there.
Well, your other problem is something that I can't help you with. You just don't like that there's compulsory school.
No.
Okay.
What's the other half you'd have to do to complete your system?
The other half?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, which way are you going to control the access in the library?
What do you mean?
Are we going to take the billions of dollars it's going to cost to add to every school library, different sections, so that you have a little beaded red beads that jangle as you walk through? Or
they already have sections like that. Have you gone into these libraries? It's not just like, oh, here are the little kid books, right? They're not putting all this stuff in the little kid books. They actually have sections
and
for
they control them. They have barriers.
I don't think it. You can take the books. So here's the cheap solution. Take the book and you put it behind the counter. Wow, that took $0.
Okay,
that was amazing.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or you already have the card.
So the librarian that now
they already do it anyways. Or you know what? We're gonna have these little robots with their arms and go and pick everything up.
Or we go with my idea that's accessible right now without any
Why
change.
would I think that the control of information on that level,
the library
is morally
can even
wrong.
have a box in there that looks like the book. You can pull it out and says available at your local public library. That from our high school is a quarter block away. From it's right down the road, but it's right there. But that way, you
want to add additional friction.
You still add the person
but what
that
happens
is
if it's
legally
not there?
liable. Legally, this is the important thing. The people who are legally liable for that child is involved in the decision whether whatever information it is.
I think that you would face the same exact problem at the other library.
Sure, you could.
So it's
could.
you're just adding friction to the process at that point. It
Sure,
doesn't actually eliminate the problem
Sure,
itself.
you could.
But why do we keep talking about this topic? Sorry, this isn't a you thing. This is more of these topics are annoying to, these
You're
topics
okay.
are annoying to me because they are not solutions based. They're argumentative based. And I think that your solution would cost probably just as much money as this other one does.
How?
Well, you would have to put something in that library that says available at this other library. And the thing is these kids can buy this information anyways if they want to. They can just get on their little Amazon Kindle or whatever the heck, click, click, click. They can buy whatever they want. So I think
Sure
that
can,
the
and that's
conversation is
also-
more of a manipulative
That's
tactic
also,
than anything else.
hold on. I'm not trying to manipulate. That's also under control of the parents.
I don't think that it really totally is underneath control of the parents. I don't.
So you
I
think there's
that it's
any
unrealistic.
throw the age out, age of the child.
Okay,
Throw the age out. You name the age. I want to work off your gambit.
work off of my gambit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not even thinking of an age.
Just
at
say
this
an
point.
age.
Okay,
Pick one.
fine. We'll go young. We'll go 4.
4. Is there any 4-year-old that has their own Amazon account?
So no, they should not have their own Amazon account because
I
it's
argue
underneath the age of 13. So legally, they're not supposed to.
Can a 13-year-old even open their own Amazon account?
I don't know. I haven't looked at their process.
I mean, yeah.
but I mean,
guess-
I would assume
I
they.
guess if the 13-year-old is
Shall we find out?
Is if a 13-year-old's packing their own credit card and supplying their own income, I got no problems with that 13-year-old accessing anything they want. What I worry about
So it goes based off of income.
what I worry about is ruining the life of the child with the sustenance givers.
I think that this is a fringe use case. That's very unlikely to happen. I don't think that this is. I think that people are just getting mad, right? Like they want to
Probably
block,
right.
to kill a mockingbird. And there's a reason that people don't want this information
You're
out
probably
into the
right.
public. And the reason isn't, protecting the child or something like that. It tends to have something to do with their own personal
You're
preferences.
probably right. And I'm just a radical that thinks that as long as the parents carry legal liability for that child, they should maintain that dinner table is as copacetic to their desires
I
as
think-
they can get.
I don't know. I here's what I come back to. Okay. And maybe this is unrealistic. I don't think every family is a happy family.
I think most families aren't.
I would agree with that. So to say, oh, this is just going to cause one more problem.
I'm not saying it's
Probably
just
not.
going to.
Probably not. I mean, these parents, so let's get real about this. These parents, if they could, they would never, ever let their kid even know that there was a gay person
Sure.
ever. So what does that mean? Like, that's not wrong. That's prejudice
Sure.
at that point. And but this is problematic. Like, so you are inadvertently advocating for people to try
So
and
what's
control the world around them. And we know how that works out.
What's the alternative to that?
I'm actually shocked as somebody that is an anarchist that you would ever support anybody putting
But you're-
limitations and controls into place.
But here's where you're falling through the cracks.
Okay, let's hear it.
Is that to correct that, you have to lean into a heavier, more dictatorial state that's involved more in your home.
A heavy, more dictatorial state in your home. How is that?
Well, how
How's
do you,
your drink?
this one's okay too. Now I'll
This
tell
is
you.
so. Do you want to show everybody what
My-
you're having
yeah,
here?
they've seen it before. My favorite one off of this list of beers was, there's the side I want. Was okay.
And you're drinking the hell one right now, I think.
They're all called hell. I don't get it. Christmas beer's called hell. Okay. This one here was
Okay.
outstanding. The
The hell Rosenheim,
Flotzinger. Yep. And this Landgang.
Langen Brauerei.
Yeah.
Can't say it. It pills.
Yeah. One with the sailor on.
Okay.
Excellent. But no. See,
I think that we're getting heated, and we might be like
That's
spinning
okay.
around the drain on this one.
it's okay. I always follow my thoughts to its logical conclusion.
Mm-hmm.
It's a training I have. I'll tell you about the training a little later and why I am that way.
See, I just feel like if we solve the problem up front, then we don't get to these conversations,
I would
and it
love it.
solves everything downstream. So for me, we already have the solution. So why don't we just, and let's lean in a little
But we
bit more
don't
into
have the
porn.
solution yet.
Oh, you wanted to talk about blockchain though?
I love blockchain, but first,
We have the solution. The problem is our legislatures are not actually doing the things. We have wallets today where you can control your information, but instead they'd prefer to play around with Apple. So remember how you were talking about how every monopoly is enabled
I got a
by
fun
the
story.
government.
I've got a fun story to tell you after
Okay.
this. But I want to, you were running for Congress, right?
Yeah.
Now, had you gotten in, you would have got to sit.
And keep in mind, anything that we just talked about, that would not even be something that would sit on a congressional desk, right? That is like at the
this is-
school board
this is,
level. That's at the city
state
level,
level.
state level. That's nothing that would
This is
hit
where
the
Florida, you remember
the
where,
U.S.
where Florida had that "Don't Say Gay" bill that everyone called it? Did you ever read that?
No, I didn't put in the effort. I was too busy running.
You really should have. It shows you.
With what time?
Shows
With
you
what time? You wake up and
you
you're
should
always
read it now because it
Okay,
gives you a
fine.
reflection back. But
Okay.
let's this is you about
Perry.house.gov.
This is what they were.
Freedom House Caucus.
Now this was the Freedom Caucus was trying to get McCarthy to sign on to this.
Oh, are we talking about McCarthy now?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the main topic. Okay, and we need to give context to people that after the campaign, I took a break. I've stayed off of social media pretty much. I haven't been following everything. Like I hear little things here and there, but I'm not reading newspapers. I'm not watching the news. I haven't even touched the congressional floor to see what's really happening. Okay, so let's go. Let's work from there.
So here's what they were doing.
So give me context on the whole situation here.
So the House Freedom Caucus went to essentially like the Republican National and said, we want these enacted for you guys, for the Republicans to get our vote for McCarthy. And here's the deals they wanted. Now, they got maligned in all of the mainstream media, for lack of a better word, Fox, CNN, MSNBC. I just would like to
go ahead. You would like to read through
just
this?
go through this with you. Now, the House Freedom Caucus is a group of, I think, 20
Radicals.
Congress members, maybe.
Extremists. They're actually not radicals, they're extremists.
Maybe. I want you to read through this and tell me if you think they're extremists or maybe you've heard something.
I haven't heard anything. Like I said, I have completely tapped out. I've been hitting the slopes every day, just recharging. May I use your mouse?
Of course. I'll just hand this to you. Read them aloud.
Okay.
Read them for the community and tell me which of these you disagree with.
Okay.
And I'll sit
Here we
and
go.
drink a beer.
So Freedom House Caucus, restoring
House
the people's
Freedom Caucus.
House Freedom Caucus. I'm getting ahead of myself here. Restoring the people's voice in Congress. Top line, between now and January, the House Freedom Caucus will work with like-minded colleagues to demand aggressive reforms to the people's house back to the American people and make it functional again. Okay, so just as a pass-through, right? Keep in mind, anything with politics, this is like fluff language. This doesn't mean anything, right?
We don't need to
Their
pick
top
it
line
apart.
so far is useless. Yeah, but I
Maybe.
mean, this is how January thinks. So leaders of both political parties, so this is both Republican and Democratic parties, have consolidated so much power that the members of Congress have no meaningful role in the legislative process beyond voting up or down. So the answer to that is yes and no at the same time. So members of Congress actually do have the power to do things, but because they opt to play political games instead of serving the people, that they give up that power.
I want you to try reading this with an open mind.
I'm just, you don't think that that's open? I thought that was very open.
well,
That's
you said
more
they were-
beyond.
You said they were radicals.
No, I actually think they're extremists.
Or you said
I
they're
would be a
extremists.
radical. I am
said
a
they're-
radically progressive.
You said they're extremists.
Yeah. So the result of the People's House is serving everyone in Washington except the American people. Politicians, connected lobbyists. So yeah, I mean, we've let our government become corrupt. Okay. Republicans ran to fix Washington so that we should not continue the same system that broke it. Republicans ran to fix Washington. When did they run? It's time to restore real Republican government. That is not what this group of people is about. The House the House Freedom Caucus is not about that.
What are they about?
Well, real Republicans were moderates. They were rhinos. So that just does not align right there.
I would beg to differ, but I've got a much deeper involvement with historical studies.
Of course. Yes, you're the expert here. And give elected representatives back their rightful role in lawmaking to implement the will of their voters. So another thing is, if they were actually trying to do this, they would implement a representative democracy application where their people could give them direct feedback instead of this kind of one person system that we have today. Okay, reform the House Republican Conference, reclaim legislative impact for the people's. How long is this? Because I do tend to analyze. I'm giving you all my thoughts out loud.
That's why I'm trying to tell you to just keep.
Fix the Republican House, must first put Republican House in order. Okay. Enact a majority of the majority rule. Majority of the majority. Who decides what the majority is, and how do you actually know unless you have feedback coming? I'm sorry. This is our constituents did not know. This is absolutely extremism. This is otherism. No, I don't like any of this. I can already tell you that when I start seeing language like this, this is not people that represent the people, because they will have Democrats in their districts. They will have moderates in their districts. They'll have independents. They'll have.
Sure.
So restore independence of committees. Let's see here. Being selected based on loyalty and fundraising for party leader. No, I totally agree with this one. So it shouldn't be based on loyalty and everything like that. But at the same time, if any of those people that eventually elected to give in to McCarthy or whatever, you better believe that they cut deals with him and leveraged his political capital for their gain, or he gave away his political capital in exchange for those votes.
I'm hoping at least parts of this was his giving away political capital.
Well, no, it's 100%. So there's something that was told to me.
I'll tell you down here, my favorite one's coming up in a minute.
Okay. So the currency of politics at the end of the day is money and power. So anytime they give something or agree with somebody, there's a currency exchange there. Okay. Committees are supposed to be workhorses, most members impactful, not sidelined is party leaders, handcraft legislation behind closed doors, rush it to House floor. They actually do this in Utah. I think it's completely unethical.
I imagine they do it everywhere.
They definitely do it here. But yeah, they do it frequent places. Diversify steering committee. Makeup does not reflect all House Republicans. Instead, it's packed with party leader and their closest allies. I mean, yeah, I think that we know that. But they would be doing the same thing, right? As a result.
I think they're
so this is what the whip is called. And so essentially the whip is putting people in their place and, saying, hey, we will cut off your money and your fundraising power.
He whips them into place.
Yeah. So it's level of playing field, roles in which the Republican can be elected by colleagues, capping the number of members, 7. Yeah, I mean, I think that reducing it is fine. Is this the one that you want?
It's one of them.
Open legislative process. Represent their will, the will of constituents in their lawmaking. The problem is we don't have feedback loops in this, so that's not even possible. This is all fluff and stuff until you actually take action.
Read on.
Okay.
The members of Congress to represent the will of their constituents in lawmaking, they must have the ability to actually participate in making a law. So what they don't want is bills to come down and just say, you have to vote on this. You can't adjust it. You don't even have time to read through it most times.
Well, yeah, but they all do this, every single one of them. And so this to me looks like grandstanding.
This group of extremists is trying to stop that. They actually account for that later on. You've just heard they're extremists. I want you to keep reading.
Well, the thing is they participate in this. I've read their legislation.
Sure.
So I look at this and I'm just rolling my eyes, because this is just grandstanding. This is essentially making demands, making a scene, stirring up the pot, making.
we'll see if any of this comes into account.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the next one. Enforce responsibility in spending. Restoring fiscal responsibility requires being responsible with all decisions. So far, so good. We will never rein in out of control spending if we continue. Government kick the can down the road, continuing resolutions and ominous spending bills craft in secret, 11th floor and rushed in for a
The
vote.
11th hour and rush to the floor for a vote.
11th hour, thank you. House is supposed to pass all 12 regular appropriation bills to fund. Okay, so here's the other thing. These people, we will never rein in out of control spending. First of all, the stuff that's really killing us is not the stuff that they vote on. That's like, so 2/3 of the money has already been committed. If they actually wanted to cut down stuff, and this comes back to more of those solutions that I said, where is the money even going?
Here's another thing I want
And
to
cutting
point
out
out.
the contracts.
See where it says the House is supposed to pass all 12 regular appropriation bills to fund the government by June 30th. That's written in law. And we haven't met that in 14
20
years.
years. 22
Yeah,
years.
that's something I like.
So I don't disagree with these things, but
Don't say that too loud. These are terrorists.
When did I say that? I didn't say that. I said that
They're, what did you call them again?
they're extremists.
They're extremists, yes.
So a lot of this stuff in here is for show and is extremism. But this stuff right here, the Republicans, neither Republicans nor Democrats have been about like money and stuff. They're all buddies with each other, inappropriate buddies, on every level, feeding each other. But the thing is like, you can have something in here that's like, hey, this is something that I agree with. But if the rest is manipulative trash, it still comes out to be manipulative trash.
What part so far has been trash?
This stuff up here. I mean, all this stuff that I pointed out, like, going through this majority rule, we actually want to represent the people. They don't represent the people. They don't have the information. This is essentially not saying I want to represent the people. It's I want to put in my whatever into Congress and all these things. But then they're also minorities, right? Keep in mind, you said these are 20 people. So let's do some quick math.
Hold on.
At the moment.
Let me ask you
We're
a
not
question.
done.
Let me ask you a question on that.
20 divided by 400, essentially 35. So this is like a 5% group of people wants to have more control than everybody else.
Wouldn't any of that, like restore the independence to committees, wouldn't that apply to all parties all across the board?
So the thing is I didn't say that was a bad thing. I said, hey, this is fine. What I'm saying is when they're talking about, well, we actually want to represent our people, they do not represent their people.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Point me to a politician that's elected today that actually represents their people.
Let me ask you a question. Let's say there's a mid-level vote up in Congress. Would you rather your Congress member got to read it, maybe comb through it, maybe even amend it?
But they have a team of people that's supposed to do that, and they have ample opportunity.
They do?
You're supposed to go into those committee things. You're supposed to do all that stuff.
How about this last omnibus bill? Did we have ample opportunity?
Do you think that they didn't have an option to have access to it beforehand? Do you really believe that?
I don't know, but I know that it came to the floor 21 hours before the vote was forced. And it was, 7,000 pages?
So a couple of things. You pay people to go through that stuff and read it with you. It's not just one person that goes through. So you have an entire group of people, and I will read through these things and I can go through them. But
7,000 pages.
Then you say no. Then you say no. It's as simple as that. No.
But what's
the fact that they are complicit with
what's the sword of Damocles hanging over their head?
Fake stuff.
It's always a government shutdown every time. And what happened during the last government shutdown?
This is so boring. Okay. I'm sorry. Anytime I see stuff like this, so now I scrolled down a little bit, reset the House rules, and then
Did you read Reset the House Rules?
So no. So on this one, Republicans need to undo the changes instituting caused
See,
by
I feel
Trump.
like you're just stepping into this with negative. You're not reading it
Well, so
with any. You're not giving it any.
No. So that's not what happened here. What happened here is I guess I had moved the mouse as we were talking.
Okay.
And so I just went to the next thing. And then you said, have you done this? And so then I looked up and I was like,
Okay.
oh no. So it wasn't skipping over that. But yeah, I do read this stuff. And let me tell you what's turning me off. Because maybe this is what it is. See how it says Republicans in here and Democrats in here.
Oh, I agree.
And then, we hate this person. It's like, I cannot consume this stuff. This is baloney
Well, right
and
there,
exhausting.
they're just writing a historical fact.
Oh, and look, but as you scroll down, you start to see stuff like Fauci.
That
It's
needs
like
to happen.
so as soon as you start calling out specific people on this is essentially like exhausting BS, and you know exactly where it's coming from. And they just gave away what their real issue is here. So it's no longer
What's
about the
real
people.
issue?
Congress has the tools in its arsenal to hold the Biden administration accountable. What are they holding the Biden administration accountable for? It doesn't matter if Trump or Biden was in
Hold on.
office.
Read on. Read on.
But hold on. It doesn't matter. Both of them would be absolute baloney.
Okay.
Both of them.
I want to read what they're
Okay,
saying.
fine. If we activate them, Democrats eliminated the Holman rule when they took the House that allows its members to make targeted spending cuts and appropriations funding for specific federal programs or cutting the salaries of individual federal employees. Republicans must re-implement the Holman rule. So essentially saying we want to cut people's salary that we don't agree with. Right. I think that there's appropriateness to this, but there's also not appropriateness to this. If you have an employee that you don't like, get rid of them. Don't continue paying them. Don't keep them in office. Right. They're essentially saying, oh, well, we want to take away their money. And at that point, take away your congressional people's money.
Hold on. Let me ask you a question.
Okay. Sorry. Am I getting too worked up about this?
Can Congress fire anybody in the executive branch?
Not easily.
But what is Congress's role?
So, I mean, they can hold the executive branch accountable, though. They can conduct investigations.
How do they
can
do it? What is Congress's tool?
I think that you should just say where you want to go with this
Okay.
instead of asking questions, because we have 8 minutes left on our timer.
Congress is the purse.
Right. That's one of their
Congress's-
roles.
No,
but
that's
that is the primary role.
Congress is the purse. Senate is the law, is writing the law, the dictation of the law. The judiciary is the education of the law, and the executor is the execution, right?
Yes.
So Congress is right. They're writing what their tool is.
So I'm not disagreeing with you on this, but here's the problem, okay? Here's the problem. Yes, there are things that need to be fixed. Yes, there are problems that are happening. Yes, protectionism is being deployed. Yes, there's a lot of things happening here. But the stuff that's underneath this is exhausting. It's the same
Okay.
thing when the Democrats complain about the Republicans. It's like, I don't want to hear it.
Let me tell you a couple things. One, of course, they're going to write this as a Republican-centric change
But it's
because
stupid.
the people they need to buy are Republicans.
I don't
Now-
think so.
But no,
Because the
100%.
other Republicans are saying, can you
There's-
stop?
Sure. But they need to buy those other Republicans' constituents. That's what you need to take this as. Okay.
It's a
What-
game. I just see manipulation here.
The way it's written, I agree. It kind of turns my stomach. But all the applications in there are spot on.
Many of them.
I don't see one of them that I wouldn't want to see.
So the problems here are that these are not real things. When I say real things, like they're not going to represent the people.
The independence of committees, the ability for
There's no representing the people here.
the ability for any leadership.
Do you believe, and it's not the question of the pretty words that they write on the paper. Do you believe them in their words?
Here's my.
You didn't.
I don't know. I don't know.
So why
I've
are you
never met any of them,
supporting
but
this?
I want you to hear me. Do you think that any of the committee positions should be able to be held captive by either
no,
party leadership?
but I already said that though. I already said that
Boom.
that was something
That's what
that
they want to do.
But but it's talking about the people. It's not the entire people. And here's the reason why. So for example, we hear like the anger against the Democrats here. That's not representing the entire American people. That's essentially saying, I want this subset and I want to only support this subset. And if they disagreed with you, you would be an otherism.
I want you to remember this. Everything they're enacting works for both parties.
I don't think that it works for the people. That's my problem here. So yes, it works for the parties.
Nothing
it works
in
for
there
the
works against the people.
I think that there's plenty of things in here that work against the people. First of all, they're not representing the people. There is nothing in here that truly represents the people.
I'm not talking what in there.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm pointing out. So, and I took you through this at the very beginning, right? As I was going through and I was saying, that's baloney. That's not real. You know, our constituents did not elect us to cut deal with the Democrats. No, your constituents elected you to get stuff done for the people. And that did mean cutting deals with Democrats.
Okay,
that is not for the people. That's selfishly for themselves.
Okay. Enact a majority of the majority rule. I feel like I'm driving in England now.
Yeah.
Left-hand mouse operation.
Here, you can have this back.
No, it's okay. Legislation passed in a Republican House should be supported by a majority of the House Republicans.
I think it should be enacted by a majority of the people. This is just wrong.
Well, I'm with you. If I'm a firm believer that we need to, if you want democracy,
we need to get rid of the parties.
That we get rid of government.
I think that you can eventually do that.
I don't think we would ever need a Congress or a Senate or a president.
I think that you should have a direct.
We would be at war with each other a week later. But I'm just throwing it out there. You know, Texas would end up ruling because they got all the military down there. But, you know, it is what it is. There's a reason we're set up the way we are.
Across the United States. I doubt Texas would be able to have rule over other people.
Yeah.
No.
Never. It's not like, well, all right, California, New York would be gone.
I don't think that's really the warpath we're on.
What they're saying here is they don't want legislation moved from the Republicans where it doesn't have the support of all the Republicans. In that, I kind of agree because I kind of agree with you because I don't like parties. But
here's what I would like to see.
But here's another thing that I don't like. I don't like where the person who gets the most money donated to the parties in charge of everything that happens and moves through leaving their party behind, just like Nancy Pelosi did with the squad.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't agree with,
and I think that's all they're saying.
Old way of doing politics. So here's the thing: majority rule should be the people rule. If I was going to change this, and we can end with this because I know we have 2 minutes, it should be honestly what they should have done if the Republicans were for the people. And if the Democrats were for the people, they would have it focusing on the people. You know,
if they were for the people, they'd walk out into that marsh just to the east of them and drown. But
I think that's harsh and violent.
There's no violence in there.
The open legislative process, and it's time to stop. This is ancient. This is an ancient process that we can improve. So on the open legislative process, you can make it accessible to the people. I think that that's fine, and let the people vote on it. Let them, improve the legislation. If we want to do like diversifying the committees, that should really be people selected by the people should be on those committees, or those that are.
Or even drawn out of a hat.
Yeah, I would be fine. Or based off of their interest, drawn out of a hat based off of their interest.
Based off their profession. And that way,
responsibility of spending.
People can start saying, hey, or I would say, I like the drawn out of the hat. Or we just do away with committees and we just have professionals.
So I don't support what they were asking for based on the fact that it has otherism. Like that is, as we just kept going on and on, I'm like, I cannot handle people hating each other any longer. It's time for it to stop. So that's the resistance you're finding against this. Okay. But that it's not for the people, it's for themselves.
So it's not the message they were asking for. It didn't go far enough into
it wasn't the right thing for the people of the United States.
let's say you won. We got 0 minutes. Let's say you won. And you're a progressive. You've got forward-thinking ideas.
Right.
Let's say all of Utah called out and said, we want to actually step back.
Step back what?
We want to go, we want to go less progressive, less forward in our momentum. What would you do?
I would operate based off of my constituents. So first of all, I would have the ability to obtain the feedback that's necessary. I would be able to open those means of communications. I think it depends. I don't think that Utah is a non-progressive state. I mean, we're one of the first states to allow you to have your driver's license on a mobile app. We're with our technology, with everything else.
We were the first state to allow women to vote.
Yes, for many fascinating reasons.
We were the first state on paper
to
allow women to vote. Wyoming was the first state to actually allow them to vote.
Right. So, but I mean, like with this, ultimately, if I am a representative of the people, I would make it so that I could obtain that feedback from them. And then based off of that information, I would act upon it. That's ultimately what it comes down to.
You say, should I, start this up? And they vote to have you shut down the thing that you started up to let them see. To let them vote.
Do you really think that the people would vote to eliminate the means of communication?
I'm just asking you a hypothetical question. Because that's one thing. One reason I wouldn't run for governor is I'm not a fan of democracy. I don't feel that my shithead neighbor should have a say over how I live my life.
I think that there's respectful limits. Right?
Yeah.
I think that there are respectful limits.
I think the limits start at my fence, Man,
you're like really stay away. So I think that there's healthiness in cooperative societies.
Sure.
And I think why don't we leave it there?
There's also healthiness in the ability to say, I don't want to deal with that guy.
I think that that's fine as well.
Okay.
Right. But I think that what it is without communication, without information, without having those tough conversations, without deciding what kind of life we want to have and starting to implement it, that we'll just keep getting ruminations like this. But I did want to thank you so much for bringing me back.
Oh, you're welcome.
Letting me host very tough topics. And I'm sure that not everybody agrees with me, but that's okay. I think that there's value and difference of opinion. And
not everyone agrees with you.
Yeah.
Try walking in my crazy shoes.
Oh, I can imagine. I like that we don't always agree because it helps me, and in everything I say, like I take that information in and maybe you tell me something new that gives me pause and changes my mind on something. And, maybe the same thing goes the other way. And I think that that's fine. Like that's what happens when you communicate. Wow. I need to go get a glass of water.
Yeah. I should have brought you a bottle in here. Usually I keep some in here, but I killed them all in the last week. But thanks for coming on, January.
Yeah.
As always, it's been fantastic. You'll be back on again soon. I hope you run again.
We have to bring Funny Donald on at some point. Funny
Donald.
He is amazing.
Okay.
He's so you know how there's like a multiverse, right?
Uh-huh.
And
Stern turned it on. I get it. Yeah.
Right. So there's a multiverse, and Funny Donald is from one of the multiverses. So he came here and he brings levity everywhere he goes.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice person, very nice man, and I think that he would make an excellent guest. Maybe we'll get him and somebody else.
Where's he from?
Well, he's from the multiverse.
Yeah, but I mean, like, where does he?
I actually don't know.
I don't know. Here? Okay.
I don't know.
We'll have to find out, get him on. No, I felt bad that he wasn't coming on. I was looking forward to something funny.
Yeah, he's amazing.
And Dave's
maybe next week.
Not a vociferous Trump supporter, but he's a bit of a Trump supporter, and
I'm sure he'll love Funny Donald.
To get him hitting Pucker Factor 3. I like that.
Well, whether you hate Donald or love Donald, you'll like this gentleman. So he's excellent.
I love Donald's tweets. I hated Donald on gun control.
Fair enough. Okay. Yeah. Well, have an amazing one.
Yeah. We'll see you later, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.